What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today I'm going to have one of my first tips and tricks videos for you on MLB The Show 22. In today's video, what I want to talk about is a little bit about scouting, but not our typical videos. I've made videos in the past on how to best scout and what you should do with scouting and things like that, but more so this is a call to your attention type of a video, something that I want you guys to be aware of if you are playing franchise mode within MLB The Show. And this goes back to prior years as well, but it's a very, very crucial topic that you guys need to know about whenever we're talking about scouting within the show. So when talking about scouting, you first have to actually get to your scouting, which is only going to be accessed prior to the draft within the season, so mostly within April and May. So we go to our scouting tab, which is just going to pop up on the main franchise menu for us, as you can see down below, and we click into scouting, and it's, I don't know why every time going to give me a tutorial this year, but nonetheless, it's going to pop up with our scouts on the left side of the screen and the potential prospects on the right side of the screen. What I want to draw your attention to today is who the CPU chooses to scout for you, and this is an argument for you doing manual scouting yourself, and an argument for if you are doing auto scouting, which I actually do a lot of the time. I put it to auto scouting, but then I manually go in day to day and maybe change some things around. It's an argument for why you still need to pay some amount of attention to your scouting system within MLB The Show franchise mode, or else you're going to lose out on major potential prospects and you're really not going to have a whole lot scouted come draft day. And if we turn our attention to the screen here real quick, I want to show you guys exactly why, and I want to break this down scout by scout. Right off the bat, I already notice one major issue here, and that is that one of our better scouts, and all of our scouts are pretty solid, but one of our better scouts here is not actually scouting anybody. They're not scouting a specific position to discover prospects, and they are not scouting any specific player. You can see that Peter Diaz, under current assignment, says no assignment, and for a scout that has 93 efficiency, 73 in pitchers, and 82 in position players, that is inefficient. We absolutely want to make sure that he is on some form of an assignment, whether he is trying to discover players, which is his weakest attribute, or he's trying to evaluate players that are on the board. You can see here that we have dozens of potential 80 prospects, very potentially good prospects here within the scouting system that are not being scouted right now, and this guy should definitely be dedicated to at least one of those players. But then the next thing that I want to draw your attention to is what positions my other scouts are actually scouting. So right now they do each have an individual player assignment, which means that they are scouting individual players. If we take a look at Enos Rivera, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name or not, but nonetheless, if we take a look at Rivera here, the second scout on my list, his current assignment is Machado, a closing pitcher, which is a little bit interesting considering his best attribute is scouting position players. Then we go on to Juan Macbeth, who is scouting Beltran, who is a catcher, and his best category is going to be pitchers, while his worst category between the two is position players at a 44. So we can already start to establish a little bit of an odd pattern here where our position player scouts are scouting pitchers and our pitcher scouts are scouting position players. And likewise, we can go down to our final scout, Rex Navarro, who is scouting a right fielder, but again, his best attributes are going to be his pitcher attributes and his worst attribute is going to be his position player attribute. And all of that is to say that the system itself, whether you set it to auto or not, is not going to adequately target players to scout with your scouts. And so it may be to your benefit, and it definitely is to your benefit, to go into your scouting system at least occasionally, maybe once a week or something of that nature, and pick out a couple of top-end prospects here that you guys might want to scout. I mean, that there are prospects right here at the top of the list that have 80 potential and have a 2023 ETA that we're not scouting. And we're also wasting time, essentially, because this is how you get partially scouted players like this with the yellow scouting next to them, is whenever you have somebody that is ineffective at scouting a certain position, scouting that position. So you get this yellow bar here whenever you have a good positional scout scouting pitchers that has, for example, a bad pitcher's rating, and vice versa. You'll get a lot of that, and you'll end up with a lot of partially scouted people come draft day, which is not going to help you out whatsoever. Nonetheless, though, I do want to go ahead and take a further look at this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this closing pitcher that my scout is taking a look at. So if we scroll over by pressing the R1 button, we can sort by position. That's extremely useful whenever you're going through your scouting because you can break it down. Whenever you're just scouting by all, it's a very lengthy list. It's hard to identify who you actually want to scout, but when you break it down by position, you can get a much better listing of who you actually want to scout. And here is another clear example of a player that was scouted a little bit and scouted ineffectively. This person still has a red bar on their scouting and is barely scouted above players that have not been scouted at all yet. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this closing pitcher. In reality, we are scouting with this scout the lowest overall potential and overall pitcher that is available on our scouting list. And that is not going to be to our benefit. I could identify multiple players out here that are better to scout from a potential and an overall perspective, and at a similar position perspective. Whenever we actually tell our scout to scout pitchers, for example, that includes all three of those positions. And so when we're scouting a 65 overall potential, 55 overall player, that player could turn out to be better than that once we scout them. Sure, that is definitely something that could happen, but it may be to your benefit to go over to another pitching position and select a player that has a higher potential and higher overall for that person to scout. And we can take a look at Franz Liss and Paul Rowley, who both have 80 potential, both have 65 overall, both have a 2024 MLB ETA, and would most likely be more beneficial for us to put our time into. However, again, with this scout, I want to mention the fact that he is more effective at position player scouting, so I would want to go through the position players and find somebody that's out here that is worth scouting positionally. There are a ton of 80 potential players that have not yet been scouted. Here's one that I found very quickly with a 2023 ETA, 80 overall potential, and 70 overall. This would be the ideal player for our position player scout to be taking a look at. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at this catcher that our scout is taking a look at. He is scouting Alberto Beltran, a 60 potential, 60 overall player with a 2026 plus ETA. So again, not necessarily ideally the best player to be taking a look at. We might rather take a look at somebody that we already have partially scouted, or this player up here that has 80 potential that could be much higher value to our organization. Nonetheless, though, again, this is a scout that is much better at pitchers. So we're going to go to pitchers and take a look and see what's actually out here. Okay, we have another, like I talked about, those 80 potential pitchers that are available. Let's go ahead and assign him to that pitcher for now. The other thing to consider is that they do not strike a good balance between efficiency and discovery. This scout is much better at discovery and much less efficient at scouting players, and that's what those factor into. If your efficiency rating is low, you're going to uncover less about a single player when you scout them. When your discovery is high, you're going to discover better and more players to be available to you. So we may even be further better off by setting this scout to discovery and try to discover more prospects for our other scouts to take a look at. And last but not least, let's take a look at our right field scout. So we'll go the opposite direction here, and we can see that he is scouting a middle level prospect in the outfield. And that's not necessarily a bad thing unless you start to consider the fact that we have Diego Baladeres up here, who has 80 potential and 70 overall, 2023 ETA, a 2025 ETA, NBA player with 80 potential, so on and so forth. Again, though, this is a scout that is more efficient at scouting starting pitchers, so I would go back to scouting pitchers in general, and I would find a pitcher that I'm not scouting currently that I want more information on. So this is just a detailed breakdown of why I feel it's extremely important that even if you have auto scouting on, you take some amount of attention and time to put it into your scouting system, because otherwise you will be struggling to find good prospects, and on draft day you'll be left with very little information at your disposal. And hopefully this information in this video was useful to you guys in some way. If it was, as always, leave that like down below, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and comment down below with what you guys think. What strategy do you take to scouting in MLB The Show? Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.